peace. Peace to Real Hip Hop. Saladin, El Lowry, Jasim, peace. Well, another eventful week of more of the same stuff. Irony. I have a couple of things to go through. Peace, YQ. Peace, Real. As with the way I usually start every classroom when we're actually in the room, if anyone has any questions about anything, I know Saladin, you asked a question, very good one. You know, I'd like to wait a little bit for people to answer certain questions because they're really good questions, and I would like more people to see the answers to these very good questions. I hope that we're developing ourselves, right? As with every class, I always want to know how everyone is doing. Peace, fly phrase, right? SW, right? A triangle of power, right? I always speak about a triangle of power. But really, the triangle of power, you know, for me, and you know, and of course, I always like to revise the triangle of power is that Wing Chun, the triangle of power is that base of your body, and then the way the hands shoot out into this triangle form. So in that center line where you strike is where that power is. So I like to use that as a symbolism for how we are, you know, the tools that I use in my life. Peace series. Reading, training, writing. In other words, what are we learning? What are we developing? How are we developing? And then how are we sharing all this stuff? How are we sharing? In other words, how in that sharing, right? How do we express the understanding from these pursuits? How have we decided to create? Thank you, Saladin, for throwing that question in there. I did have it written in my notes. Why am I starting with this triangle of power? Right? The foundation of this classroom is done offline. Okay? When people ask me, they write me letters, right? And they ask me, what is this peace course, right? And I say political education, civilization enrichment. Right? The name that Day's son gave the class when he officially had set it up for me to teach it. The original foundation, though, is that political education, though, right? What is the revolution and how do we cause that? I've written essays on this. I built on it extensively. In my own creative works, I've expressed it as the mentality. Express the mentality, express the desires, right? And as we see things go muck, and yet they are really not, nothing's really gone haywire. Things have just gone on as they always do, right? So what is the political education? Now I'm telling you right now that the majority of this course, though, is built offline. It is built what you take home. It is in that nature that I learned the martial arts as well. If you watched any of the sessions that me and my Sanbao brothers had, the gods as we were training with Seagung, Bobby Whitaker. The way we were training, those seemed simple. Simple little things, ways to keep your leg, rotate on your heel, gather the strength here. And they ended up being exercises that we took home and we perfected. We learned how these exercises and these movements became our movements, and they developed our own nature with these movements and how we could be comfortable with them. And in practicing, we saw how they would be used to save our own lives and also develop our own health, our chi, right? So political education. Most of us got here into a classroom because we got knowledge of self, though, because of our hatred, right? We got knowledge of ourselves because we were angry at what white people do, at what the institutions do, right? When we go in, we look much further and we realize that we are the makers and owners, but we're not so much the owners of what we're making, right? So there's a lot of stuff that we have to do. And that gap, see that gap between maker and owner is the most important aspect of development in the first degree. Okay? Most important aspect. Teach yourself. I'm just looking through my notes, trying to take away some of these windows I had open during the work during the day that aren't useful right now. I just want to keep my notes open. But I wanted to go through, give me a moment here. Education. Each point of term. What is the necessity of political education? What is it? What are we going to do with it? Right? How does it develop? Right? Just give me a moment here. Give me a moment. I'm going to fix my audio a little better. Okay, the sound is back on. Okay, does everybody hear me good? Chad, do you hear me? Right? Just wanted to make the cipher where we only have to deal with the noise that my failing laptop camera is offering. Okay? But I wanted to do because a lot of yous, here is the responsibility of political education. The responsibility of political education, though, isn't just getting 120 and knowing exactly how the devil is the devil. Okay? I've always talked about how that's an inferior learning and an inferior education. Okay? It leads people to not understanding, though, that the situations that we are dealing with today only deal with more knowledge. Okay? Right? The more atrocities that we see, the more things that we see that are horrible are only one thing. It means that we're seeing more information. Right? More information. And thus, the potential for knowledge. See, some people worry about the dissemination of more information. More information out there, there's more of a possibility of it being wrong, right? Certainly, yeah, if you take it to record labels selling things. Right? Although record labels are almost a moot point right now, okay? Because if anybody is even thinking that's how you make music and deciding to make music by getting on a record label, though, then you're already making bad music. Because it's an automatically pandered product. But this is not what I'm talking about here. This is something different. All right? We see the police brutality. We see all these heinous things going on. We see the pandemic. We see more information. What we have to learn, though, is how to be able to process mass amounts of information and get knowledge. Okay? So we're literally the major aspect, the major work of political education today, so that you are politically astute. In other words, knowing the framework of power around you is being able to deal with mass amounts of knowledge, right? I should say a better word, process mass amounts of knowledge. And knowledge, see, there you go. I'm thinking ahead, so I'm saying what it isn't, right? Process mass amounts of information and extract knowledge, okay? And I'm using the police brutality because this has been the story all week, but at the same time, though, it should lead you to one of the major aspects of this classroom, okay? We see the police brutality, we haven't seen anything new, okay? There's absolutely nothing new about it, though. I'll give you an example. Let me see if I find that on Wikipedia here. Okay, over here. So, right? This happened in 1994. This was probably, if I remember correctly, the first this was the first time I became an activist, officially an activist, where I was marching. Before, I was already writing things that had a political militant bent, but I actually had become physically become an activist out there, and actually marched for the killing of Anthony Baez, right? The reason I'm saying this, though, is because none of this is absolutely new. None of this. Absolutely nothing. So what we're dealing with, though, is really to settle ourselves and realize that we're dealing more with mass amounts of information. So let it spark you, let it inspire you, whether it is negatively or positively, to work harder. What do I mean, though, when I say that the most important protocol, the most important work of political education, though, right? Let me copy this so that way it's in notes for later. Major work I had just said of political education is the processing of mass amounts of information. However, right, the major protocol that I'm teaching here, right, the major protocol of political education, there's only two ways around it, though, as I taught it, though, is the martial arts. The development of the mind and the body to act perfectly as one, as close to Perfection is you could get it every time. And so as close to perfection is always being in perfection. You see? Because what I teach, though, is perfection. Constant elevation, ever increasing rate. The rate is circular. It's almost depth of going back to go forward. What do I mean by going back to go forward? Child. The child is the best part. But when the child is born, it doesn't have the knowledge. It doesn't have the understanding that we do. Right? So it is technically, in many respects, we could say it's behind us. But it goes back to go forward. Okay? It goes back to go forward. So this is what I mean. It isn't perfect because it isn't done, but it is always in constant elevation. The physical and mental art, though, of that perfection, though, is martial arts, though. Learning your body, learning the development, learning how to defend yourself, learning how to have the ability to defend yourself before you have to physically defend yourself, knowing the lay of the land, right? Knowing where the enemy is, though, right? Preventing contact with the enemy. I don't know if you have brothers and sisters ever seen the beginning of Ghost Dog, right? Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai, right? It's a great movie. And a great score, too, by RZA. But in the beginning, they show Ghost Dog, right? Who brings Ghost Dog. And he's just walking around the neighborhood. But as he walks through people, no one notices that he's there. You see? That really was the key opening because it shows you the level of martial skill that he's attained. See? There was a thing here, and people don't really get this jewel. Every time I train people with the limited amounts of things that I know, right? With the limited things that I know, the major aspect of martial arts is your eyes, the development of your eyes, right? Uh-oh. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's not trash RZA musically today, okay? Let's not throw the subs. RZA has great experiments that, you know, it's just that his projects are filled with experiments that are maybe about 30% successful. Problem is that the good thing is that those 30% end up being next level and used by somebody else to greater effect, you know? But if you go back to all those records, you'll see what I mean. But going back to go forward is a form of refinement. I don't want to say it's a form of refinement. It's the way of the culture. You know what I mean? It's the way that the culture is. You know, if you want to see it as a level of refinement, yes. You know what I mean? It certainly could be taken that way. Right? A lot of people didn't like that or didn't mention that song for show. It was a very good beat. You know, hard to find instrumental. You know? As a side note, RZA music is something that if you can listen to the instrumental, you hear different things you weren't hearing from the recorded version with vocals. You know, there were things lost in translation, you know, at times with RZA. But what I mean is this, though. When this class is offline is when you should be developing your political education, how you deal with the outside world, how you deal with humanity, how you deal with the people, how you deal with the 85, how you deal with developing yourself, how you deal with your eyes and what you see, how well skilled your eyes are. That's what learning 120 is. Having the ability to see with your eyes, though, seeing different things, right? Right? A lot of 120 is dealing with, like today's degree, right? Is dealing with the concepts of metaphor. And so you're applying a metaphor to see deeper of what you're seeing out there, right? The doctors, the nurses, ministers, right? Or I should say doctors, ministers, nurses, right? And the cremators, right? Okay? We know that in any society, these aren't the only heinous individuals, but they are metaphors for deeper things, right? And that you could have, let's say, police playing the role of doctor, right? Examining and making their own judgments as a minister, and even carrying it out as a nurse, though, and then to some extent, even cremating, right? The entire process by one individual, right? The entire process. What I want the students to do, all of your students to do, if you're not training, think about it. Okay? I'll check that out. A lot of the stuff that I've heard, I haven't heard as much as I should, but a lot of Japreem's stuff is always hits me the right way. It's good stuff, hardcore stuff. Now, I'm not sure how you worded that question, Saladin. Peace, all understanding of your eyes, right? What I mean is this, right? When you train in the martial arts, though, not everyone is physically gifted. Okay, this is why I love Wing Chun so much, because you don't have to be physically gifted, and that's why I consider it the greatest martial art. Right? Absolutely, Supreme Scientist. Absolutely, everything you said there is correct. You know, and I think one of the great tools, as I'm talking about now, the tools of political education is the martial art. But the root of martial art, though, is the eye. How well have you trained your eye? What do you see? What do you anticipate? And I literally mean in the beginning your physical eye. You know what I mean? What are you seeing out there? What are you not seeing? You see? How are you anticipating? Okay? The truth is, no matter what, no matter how many weapons you have, right? You will not have expert control of the lay of the land. If we're indeed seeing police and the way that they deal with us as an actual enemy, right? And indeed, I don't think there's any way that we could look at that. Okay? Right? There's no real way to look at that but that. But now when we look at that, we have people that have mastered the lay of the land. They can out-weapon us. They outman us. So then now your eyes are important in understanding the lay of the land. So you have to be able to read things and in dealing with 120, though, you're learning about certain tools. You're learning about certain aspects of history and applying it to your daily life. He likes the devil because the devil gives him nothing. You go out there into the world, and then you realize, wait a minute, what am I asking for? What should I give myself? You're applying the lesson. Not just pointing at people and say, look, they like the devil because the devil gives them nothing. You're looking at your own life, your own ways and means, the way that you deal with things. Okay? This is what I'm saying. The martial art is always going to be about what do you see of your own body? What do you feel of your own body? What limitations do you have each day with your body? Depending on injury, depending on just not being there, what will you develop, right? The imagining of situations. See? A lot of us take things into account and we go, listen, what you should be doing, though, is looking at situations and saying, how did he get into this situation? And if I get into this situation, what will I do? This is what you have to be asking yourself. Are we asking the right questions? Not asking the questions and not tough talking it and saying that no one's going to do this, no one's going to do that to me. You don't know what people will be able to do to you. Okay? You have no idea. You're disrespecting your enemy when you start talking like that. Okay? But understand political education, though, is the ability to take in mass amounts of information, and when it goes into the greatest protocol that I see, this is my understanding of the martial art, that what you're doing is how good are your eyes at taking a mass amount of information and analyzing it in such a way where you know the safest routes, the safest individuals, right? The safest possibilities for yourself and who your loved ones you're dealing with. This is what we have to do. We cannot count on the humanity of people to defend ourselves. Okay? And let me tell you something. If you are not, you're doing it two ways. And I mean you rhetorically, no one here. Right? But if you say, I don't expect them to finally see the light and all of a sudden be kind, then you are correct. But if you were trying to get your own people enraged to do something wild and crazy and violent against their oppressor, then you're also dealing with the same poles, okay? You're dealing with the emotional poles, you see? And in this respect, you're expecting too much, okay? When you expect heart out of the heartless, right? Then you're expecting too much of humanity. When you expect courage out of the fearful, then you expect too much out of humanity, okay? And the truth is that courage and heart should only be expected within yourself to now be expressed how? Should it be expressed with rage or massive intelligence? See? An intelligence that's cunning. An intelligence that is deciding how we could actually defend ourselves and ward off certain things. Right? The truth is, right, is that we talk about that we're warriors. But then if we're warriors, though, then understand this, though, that a lot of times we exotify the concept of what it is to be a warrior. If you indeed are saying you're a warrior, and if you're here, you're in a warrior curriculum. And if you're not here to get this warrior curriculum as a warrior, then you are indulging in something that you're not ready for. This is what I'm teaching, and I'm teaching nothing else. But understand that if you take on the character and the nature of a warrior, then you have to acknowledge that everything out there is war. And what happens in war is that you don't get to go to every piece of land that you would like. That in war, you don't get to do every single thing that you would like to do. Because in times of war, not everything is safe. Right? In times of war, the things that you think are your right are no longer your right. You see? The thing is with our people is that we do things as if we should be treated like citizens. See? This happens to everyone, right? The Puerto Rican that is colonized gets a rude awakening. Okay? They get a very rude awakening, right? When that colonization hasn't afforded them the glory of a first world country, the same type that allows them to lord their citizenship over others, other brown brethren and sistren, right? How meaningless it is, right? So what I'm saying is this. What this happens is this, right? If you're really warriors, then you understand that in war, and you say, listen, I have a right to go to this such and such place and have no harassment because I'm an American citizen, I'm a person of the world, I'm a human of the world, I've done nothing illegal, right? Law-abiding, I should be able to sit here, such and such, and do this and that. But if you're a warrior and you know you're a warrior, then you know you're in war. And if there are no, that though the rules have already been set out, that's shit, what you just said. So that means that when you go with your family to a park, when you go with your family to the store, when you go out to do something, you have to always be ready. Always be ready to be clever and cunning, evasive, and then willing to defend yourself, though, if all of those other measures have been unsuccessful. Because at the very least, what's demanded, though, is at the end of the day, you made the choice, though, that you could sleep at night with. You see? So when I say political education, this class is political education. It's not getting in line, though, and learning about all this type of history and all this type of hatred and just spewing hatred. This shit doesn't help. Okay? It doesn't help, though, to quote the wisdom degree in the 1 to 10, though, and actually absolve ourselves of the humanity of all things of a said descriptive nature. Right? Because the truth is, at the level that we're at, though, humanity has been lost by all. So know who you're dealing with, though. That's what 120 is for, to know who you're dealing with. But also know what level of humanity that we're dealing with now. How far have these lessons gone to affect all the human families, right? Because in that brother that returned, right, one of the intriguing things that intrigued me as a tell-all thing, right, the thing that you see more, the one thing in that video that you see more than George Floyd being returned, right, is absolutely real hip-hop. You know, if you have your build, you can throw it, though. We're definitely going to get into all that and all these questions that I see up here. But the one thing you see more in the George Floyd video than him being returned to the essence is that original man, the yellow seed, allowing it to happen. Right? So whose humanity is worse? The one that was made, that was weak and wicked, or the one that was made weak and wicked? You see what I'm saying? Right? Absolutely, supreme scientist. You know, we're not human, though, if you don't get enraged when you see certain things. But you've got to take the time to think about how you're going to react to certain things like that. You know what I mean? Peace-wise rule. Right? This political education is important. You know? Absolutely. Absolutely. Political education is important, but it also needs a balance. It's political education and civilization enrichment. Even in your studies, you have to find out for the imbalance of political education. You have to study for the imbalance, though, of negative knowledge. Okay? And you have to know how to rebalance yourself with that. Okay? This is why the arts, this is why different types of scientific learning, you know what I mean, are crucial pursuits. Studying the arts, all of these things. We need to be balanced. Right? That's right, Nick. That's right. You know what I mean? Okay. But what I would like people to do, if you're all students here, is to know that whether you are training with me directly or not, it's time to think about the martial arts as a protocol. Because in this classroom, it is certainly a protocol. If people are always asking, what is the major difference from learning it online, or people, brothers write me from jail, it is the physical protocol that goes along with the teaching. Okay? If you're not training in the martial art, then train your body to be physically adept. You know? Start studying certain things, right? Find out what martial arts suits you and how you could learn. These are vital things to learn, okay? Because no matter what weaponry you think will save you, you still have to learn how to martially use it, okay? All right? And Allah you justice. I see your name is Allah you justice, right? It's always a good question, especially if that's your name, to have a build, to write down and have a build how you see justice. What is justice? What is justice in situations like this? See, the justice in situations like this isn't always going to be seen, right? Martial arts is your best friend, Moses Powell. Absolutely wise. You already know. I know. I'm saying you already know. Wise ruler already know. Fellow martial artist. Already know. You keep your sanity that way too. If you have your build on the day's math, throw it up there. If you have any questions about anything, I'm looking here. I feel like I missed the question. Right? No, I didn't. But remember, if you're learning the martial art, understand that the first lesson in the martial art, though, is your eyes. It isn't the hardness of your arms. It isn't the strength of your arms. It isn't the speed that you have. Right? I'll give you an example. Did you know, and you can do your research on this, the fly, the human fly, does not move faster than, very fast. It doesn't really move much faster than the human and the human's swatting hand. So you say, how come, generally, right, you've really got to be good, you've really got to catch them to actually swat a fly, right? Wave something big enough or fast enough to get them, right? Why is the fly so fast? Well, when you really study, though, it's the fly's eyes. It sees things so much more better than we do that its quality of sight is seeing things much faster. So when we throw a fist, that punch is coming in like this to it. And it's seeing it very clearly. Very, very clearly. You know? And it's amazing. So everything is coming slow. Let me juxtapose that, put that together with something else. Right? Show you how some of the most supposedly frivolous studies can show you some things. Well, true self, you're a master. Right? And you overcame, if you catch a fly, you've overcame what they've seen so easily. You see? When you see a player, an athlete that gets into his zone, it said that everything that he was going through, when they explain it, I was in the zone, right? Everything went slow. Everything started to move slow. Like everyone around me was so much slower than me. But if you ask the player that is the victim, right? The player that is the victim of the one in the zone, right? Like all of Jordan's victims, right? He was moving faster than everyone else. You see? And the truth is that no matter what, though, at the end of the game, it's not that they're moving faster, right? We can look at Jordan's Game 6, right? Game 6 of The Last Dance. You know, that last incredible, he scores quickly with the layup, right? Goes, steals the ball, and then goes back and shoots the jumper, which gets Byron Russell falling down, so he's not even aware. He can't even keep up. He's not moving that much faster than the other players, technically. If you were watching the whole game, right, he's actually slowing down. He's actually tired as hell. Just like all of the other players, he's running out of gas, right? He's getting another reserve, so there's energy, right? But the thing about it is that he's seeing things better. You see? The sight is better, right? And if you're going to get into any kind of fighting style, it's really the sight of the individual that makes them a great fighter, right? It's really their eyes. You know? So you're really practicing your eyes. And when you're dealing with 120, it's also with all the information you process, how fast are your eyes processing what is relevant, what is irrelevant, what will be useful, and then now your understanding is going to see, well, what will possibly happen, right? That's pretty gross, real hip hop. You know, never asked you to do all that. You know, be careful though. Right? You know, a lot of plagues continued because of flies, right? But somebody, let me see that. You said right? Allah you justice, Naeem Justice Bilal here. You said justice entails the knowing of the cipher, right? And continuum of what you project out. You receive, I return. Okay? That's a fair justice. Jasim said justice is about boundaries and restoration and measurements as well. That also is true, right? And in these situations, so what are our bounds? What are our boundaries, right? When we clearly live in a war zone where boundaries can be made, right? Rules and regulations can be shifted at any moment for us, right? So the rules and regulations of the land are not the rules and regulations that we are being dealt with. And instead of crying about it, we have to understand that that's just the way it is, right? So how do we prepare for that? Prepare your eyes, right? Prepare the anticipation of things, right? Prepare yourself for the preservation of your body, okay? All this martial arts stuff, and you see people running and smashing into things, breaking bricks, and you know, they throw whole fridges on Bak, and he's hitting the fridge with his elbow. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about avoiding all of that. Okay? Get out of the way. Get out of the cipher. Right? Protect the cipher. Right? Realign the cipher continuously. Right? These are the things. Right? One of the differences between most of the Japanese and most of the other martial arts that are rooted all through China is that Chinese martial arts are based on the cipher. Okay? So even in the best martial arts that aren't really considered kung fu, or in that large Chinese martial arts that we like to call kung fu, right? Watch Ang Bak, and you realize that at his best, he's moving in ciphers. They're just really cut. They're very cut ciphers, but they're still in a cipher way of moving. See? You know what I mean? So the thing about it is that none of this stuff is going to work, though, unless we really start to develop a way of protecting ourselves and the cipher around us. So you have to develop yourself stronger. You have to start becoming more healthy. The healthier you are, the more that you could see, the more that you can acknowledge, the more that you could recuperate, the more that you can endure. Right? If you start being healthy, you can start to experiment with things that cause unhealthiness. Right? So I want you to fast from things, right? So in your training, before we even think about a martial art, if you're not there, then you start to train the body, train the physical, make it stronger, right? And then test yourself with certain foods, the foods that you like that aren't good for you, right? See how they affect the body, right? A lot of times, right, a lot of foods that I don't have regularly, I'll have it as a treat. And I recently realized that I had some ice cream. It was vegan ice cream, of course, right? But still ice cream. The amount of sugar that they put in there, that shit is still. No, Tony Judd does not play, but it was still, as unhealthy as any treat, levels of unhealthiness, I should say, right? So I ate ice cream and cake, celebrated a birthday, and I ate a little bit less of other food, so that way at least I wouldn't be full and heavy. So I wasn't heavy the next training day. But I realized that my will wasn't so sharp. So it wasn't my physical body that was being affected, but my mental, the desires. So I just wasn't really in the mood. You know what I'm saying? And even though I got through the training well, I wasn't such in a mood to write as much as I usually do, or read as much as I usually do. You know what I mean? So this is what I mean, though, by when I said in the Living Protocols Plus lesson, when I talk about feeling the way food goes into you, taking note of the feeling of food. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? Absolutely. You know, definitely a psychological phenomenon. You know what I mean? Because the more martial arts you learn, you realize that if you really are a good martial artist, then you know how much you really suck. You know what I mean? Like, you know how much you can't do. You know what I mean? And by having such great knowledge of all this stuff, it makes your mind counter all of that. Work on countering all of that. And you're developing situations, right? Certainly one of the best lessons, definitely. I definitely see that, wise ruler. Get out of the way. Get out of the way, right? But I just want to put that out there because I don't always talk overtly about what I wanted to talk about political education a little bit, you know what I mean? And how we all could start to develop, you know what I mean? And if you're able, when we go back into a law school in Mecca, when we open officially, we do all these things, then you can start to learn with the other guys that have boxing classes and all these other activities there, and start to really train. But the thing about it is that 120 is supposed to be working your eyes to see better, you know? Why, as you said, today's math, yeah, let's get into the mathematics. You know? Today's math, wisdom build or destroy. Born knowledge, life, all being born in knowledge. What you say, what you say and do can be constructive or destructive, and what you do will be seen and heard by all. So know what and how you eat. All of these things are true. All right, so peace, peace, my friend. All these things are true. I mean, it's certainly true. That's right, true self. Yeah, that's the object. Yeah. Right. Let's keep it simple. Okay, so the thing about this bill, wise you, right, is that you're stating some of the obvious. So it's good to deal with the youth in this way. Okay, this will work with the youth, right? But then remember, we have the youth that we will say to people that we're trying to share this with. But then we also have the build of what is deeper. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, absolutely. I think Dark Kim definitely. That's really my point. You know what I'm saying? Because, and you know Dark Kim, right? I come in there, I'm dressed in a suit every day when I first get knowledge. I don't look like the guy that's doing any kind of like real exercise, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm wearing a suit, you couldn't tell if I was physically fit or not, right? Um, and the minute I got this knowledge, I realized that if I'm not doing sports or anything like that, I have to do something. I wanted to do something useful with my physical body. You know what I mean? And it wasn't even a question. This is what you do. This is what you do. You know what I mean? And if you can't see, the thing is, right? If you don't learn how to train your body to fight, then what happens is that you yourself are a weakling, not because you can't fight, only because you can't fight, but because you will bring fights to things that don't need a fight. You know? People that start fights are usually the ones that don't know how to fight. You know? And imagine you're in a cipher where we all can fight, though. That one that don't know how to fight is always the one that is always going to start some shit because he knows everyone else can fight. You know? Not knowing when not to fight, when knowing something's not really that serious, right? Not having the calmness to, to de-escalate the situation. You know, it's a major weakness, and it's a lack of balance in mind and body. You know, absolutely, yeah. You know, you're absolutely right, Doc Campbell. So always a protocol. You know, even when I came to the school and got knowledge in born 1999. After a while, it was like, that's what we're gonna learn. Yeah, you know. And if you come to my classroom and you're not in shape, then that's the immediate goal that we're gonna get in shape, right? If you don't do any type of exercise, then we're gonna start to do some exercise. So it's always something is always being done. Something has to be immediately engaged. You know what I mean? And what travesty it is, serious, right? If the original man is supreme both mentally and physically in design, and he is in building. You know what I mean? So wise you, back to how you said the mathematics though, and this will be a theme, this martial art theme, the whole some type of martial art. I don't care if it's boxing or anything. I mean martial arts, I mean anything that'll defend you. And right now the immediate defense is a better, healthier body. Or do we need to be reminded that we're in the middle of a pandemic? You need to have some kind of discipline. This was the real jewel of the fast. When you fast, getting knowledge for 3 days, that swine isn't out of your body. I thought we fasted the 3 days. I was always up. People thought that they had fasted the swine out of their body. You ate swine for like what, 14, 15, 17, 20 years, and the 3 day fast it all went away. I don't go away. Then Firstborn Prince. I remember when I first heard Firstborn Prince say it takes 7 years. I was like, that. When he said that, I was teaching, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna up these fasts, and I started the fast, 36-hour fast. There was 1 year, I think it was 2002 or 3, where I fasted 36-hour fast 3 days a week. So maybe I might do Monday, Thursday. I may do Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, or something like that. But it was 3 days a week, and I was doing 36-hour fast. I was like, you know what? Prince said 7 years. I'm gonna speed that shit up. You know what I mean? Because I had gotten rid of pork in 1994, right? And I first heard Prince say that like around 2000. So I was like, listen, I just got 1 year left of this shit though, but I'm gonna speed it up. I don't know. This is my way of thinking. You know what I mean? But the thing is though is that 3 hour fast doesn't get rid of all the crap that you've eaten. It really doesn't. It sets a trend for it by traumatization in the beginning. But really what the thing is, though, is that you've got to be disciplined. You have to have discipline to train the body when you don't want to train the body when you think you have an excuse of injury, to train and extend and let it extend to other things, right? And now to read through this book and give yourself a goal. I don't like this book. I'm gonna read 10 pages of this book every day. I hate this subject. It's boring as hell, but I need to know it. And you read 10 pages. Because in 2 weeks, that's 140 pages, right? In 1 month, you're going to get to 300 pages, right? So any crappy book that you don't like or is a little bit too difficult for you, you can attack in 1 month, right? This is how we need to have an ability to make our own protocols, to make our own goals. I wanted to go back to wise you build on the math. You said knowledge what you say, right? Wisdom build, right? Knowledge, not knowledge. Okay, all people know what you say, right? What you say can be constructive, wisdom build, and what you do will be seen, heard by all. So know what and how you eat. Well, if we definitely do it with food and everything, that definitely makes sense. You know, and I definitely see that. You know what I mean? But you can also see these as extremes of reality, okay? Because the actions you take will either build or destroy, no matter what. You see? So some type of knowledge will be added onto the cipher with every single thing you do, whether it's wrong, right, whatever. You see? But in this case, though, we have the ability to realize that what we are saying and doing will actually build, right? And lead to what? Knowledge adding onto a cipher. And what I'm saying, though, is that wisdom is the martial art. So as you begin to train and don't have a teacher, don't have anything, right? Don't be Ralph Macchio and just get a book and start doing kicks horribly. That's not. Instead, build up your body extremely well physically until you meet that teacher that you can learn from, right? And the truth is, though, I keep it real with you. I don't know if you can learn some fighting skill on YouTube. I don't know. I am not going to say that a man can't learn some fighting skill from YouTube. Okay? Me personally, though, I never really learned well from books. You know what I'm saying? Because when they show pictures of the fist here and the fist here, it's in that middle ground where you get beat up. So I've never been good with that. But the truth is that the mentality of the martial art, the type of exercise that you would need to do to be able to take a punch, to strengthen the body, all of these things, though, can be researched and can be done. You know what I'm saying? Certainly to get your body at a real level. Because at the same time, though, we have two different types of exercise that give results. You know, we have actually maybe even three, I could say. We have exercise, and I'm talking about serious exercise. We have exercise that is being done for the statistic of things, like, the statistic of things like, massive weightlifting. You know what I mean? Where people just trying to just lift mass weight and stuff, and they look crappy and everything, but they're just, they're lifting 1 million pounds, dragging trucks with them, right? Then you have the other aspect where people are not really lifting everything in the world, but they're lifting a lot to look good, right? So they're bodybuilding, right? And we all love the ladies, so bodybuilding is all good to a certain extent, right? But it can't be done if you don't have that third thing. If you're building up the body to be able to physically engage and protect. Okay? So with that said, even if I don't think that you would really learn well enough just watching videos on YouTube, you would learn the type of exercises that a typical martial artist would do. You know what I mean? And the truth is that a lot of the stuff that you see, anything that will build massive endurance, hit training, and the basics of bodybuilding, which will be your bench, squats and bench, and focusing on those biceps, triceps, and deltoids, getting specific. Get yourself some resistance bands, and the lack of heavy weights can be overcome. You know what I mean? For a long time, you'd be surprised, right? But a good build wise you. Now we want to see how that goes specifically. You know what I mean? In your journals, you want to go and extend things. You know what I mean? Extend things. Ask questions. I think in your journals, when you build on the day's math, you shouldn't just have what you would say and what you see, but you should be, as a student, every single day, the mathematics should be able to develop one question from you of what you truly do not know. Okay? Build on the day's mathematics as a newborn. You're studying 120 and you haven't knowledge 120 yet. There should be one question that you should, every day, dealing with the math and the degrees that you're on, that deal with that day that you're on, you should have one question, like a real question, not a question that you're going to give somebody that you already know, that you do know the answer to, or you think you know the answer to, but a question of what you really don't know. You know what I mean? If you're not able to look at 120 and still derive questions, it is becoming a useless document. Okay. Okay, I'm going slow here. I'm a little behind. All right. Gerald Boylan. Today's math is wisdom build or destroy, or being born to power. Okay, I don't know how wisdom build or destroy born's power. So you got a mistake there, okay? It's 2, last I checked, it was 2, 8. That adds up to 10. Okay? And if you add up to 10, 1 and 0, you get 1. Okay, so you made a mistake here. Okay? Let's see. Responding constructively for positive development of strength through recognizing limitations as motivation for future cycles. Okay, that's not bad. It's a little convoluted though. Mm-hmm. It's a little convoluted. Okay? Understand that you also have a loose way of the language, so when you say responding is wisdom. Okay? Although I see the connection here. It's a loose. I didn't say it wasn't attached, but it is loose. Responding constructively. Constructively is code because that's just a real direct synonym, but it works. But here's where it gets convoluted. Responding constructively, wisdom build. Okay, that's how you see it. For positive development of strength. Okay. And this is probably why you said incorrectly that wisdom build, destroy all being born to power. Because you said positive development of strength. And in strength is where you see the insufficient power that you just born it to. Through recognizing limitations as motivation for future ciphers. Okay. So there's a lot of errors in there. So it's hard for me to accept the build if you already borned it incorrectly, Jarrell. So that's where we want to start from there. Okay? You know why? Here's an important lesson that happens with every single build. I don't care who you are. All of us do this, and all of us are going to do this one day or any day, and could do this any day and continue to do it, including myself. Every time we build on the day's math, we always have the possibility of just saying something that fits with the numbers. It fits with the words that go with it. What's wisdom? I mean, right? I say it's the usefulness of knowledge, right? So the using of what? The using of what we have built up, right? Our own physical bodies, right? To actually what? Add something to the cipher. What is that we are adding to the cipher? The foundation, the foundation of protection, right? I thought about taking a particular material, but I realized that it's outdated because I wrote something else to it, so I gotta get the flash to updated one. Okay. All right. All right, let's see. True Self's at peace. My next 72 hours starts tomorrow. Okay, 72 hours. True Self, just a quick question. How often are you doing that? Because, 3-day fast is, intense. I got to keep it real, though. I love eating, so I don't know. But I train heavy, though, so I would. Training, though, I wouldn't do it like. I'll do a 36-hour fast. That day I will train, and the next. So it's very intense. Those 2 training sessions. Just because I'm fasted for the second one. So that next morning, I don't break the fast until 12 p.m. So to make it 36 hours, the 12 to 12, and then up to 12 o'clock the next day. And I did that because I used to fast, and then I used to wake up. The minute I wake up, I see sun, I just run to the fridge, And I don't know, I just felt like the discipline was trash, you know what I mean? Because then, like you're mad hungry and you're going to bed at you're going to bed with your kids. So that way, because you're hungry as hell. So like, oh, we're going to bed at 7 o'clock. You know what I mean? Because I'm hungry. I just want a little discipline with the fast. You know what I mean? Of course, it could go the other way. If I'm going to break the fast at 12 p.m., well, then I'm just going to sit and lay in bed until 12 p.m., But that hasn't happened. I don't know how to do that. So. But, all right, let's see here. I'm a little behind here. Let's catch up. I love the interaction here, and I really appreciate it. Okay, exercise of the will. Yeah, that's right. Wise ruler, exercise of the will. Like, think about that, right? Do we have some type of way of being able to call our will to will things? How do we develop our will to like say, I need to do this, let me will it? How do we exercise that? Doing your training all the time makes your will something that has to be at call immediately. You see? And you have an immediate measure. Because you know when your workout was trash. And it extends to all creative measures. Right? It extends to creative measures because, and I'm thinking of you here, because now when you go into the booth and you're rhyming those rhymes, those verses now you can call that up at will because you are used to actually exercising your will. And that means you can exercise creativity. That means as a creator, you can create at will. That's what that means, at will. Right? I thought the food was referring to the time. You might be right, Supreme Scientist. Yeah, I didn't look at it that way. Because I don't assume because I don't always know what degree that brothers is on. So I kind of just stay with the mathematics. I don't assume that their build might have been referring to the food. You know what I mean? Because that's the whole thing. Peace, infinite man. True self. I just started. Wait a minute. Did I miss something here? Oh, have you read a book called Enemies, The Clash of Races? No, I have not. I have not read that. Sounds like an exciting book. It's obviously a book about our reality today, or it is a fantasy adventure book. Yeah, because they be having the same titles and stuff. Some kind of Lord of the Rings trilogy or something. It's by Mabutsu. I have obviously heard of that of him, but I've never read that book. Looks like a good book though. I'm gonna save that title. You guys got me distracted here. Searching for a book. But let's see. Got some builds here. Saladin, and I didn't forget your question, Saladin. Peace. B, he or her who gains useful insight into a myriad of people, places, and things. And always be. Okay. Saladin, none of that is incorrect per se, but it's not an actual sentence. Like, it's not really spoken. You know what I mean? Like, you definitely wouldn't go up to, like, in my classroom, like the actual physical classroom, you couldn't stand up and say, peace. Be he who gains useful insight into a myriad of people, places, and things, right? And always be willing to share what's learned, right? The ability to put that in a cohesive sentence, though, is the challenge, though, right? So you would say something more like being he or her, the being, the nature of being he or her, right, is one who gains useful insight into a myriad of ciphers, right? And will always, and ultimately will always be willing, willing to share what's learned. And of course, though, what glues that is the idea of justice as well. You know what I mean? So it's a build where you're mixing in alphabet and whatnot into it, though. You know what I mean? But again, though, some of the exercise here is for simplicity, right? Simplicity. I know we're quarantining more than usual, right, in these days and times, but we have to actually be doing the knowledge of how we will build with people. You know what I'm saying? So we want to make sure that we practice actually how we would speak. Okay. 793rd, tried that a couple of times in the 90s for books from sorry. Okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, definitely. Not the rough macho, not a good look. All right. Mr. G1, peace. Wisdom is necessary for an existence without fear of the devil. It guides and allows he or her to determine how to eliminate unrighteousness and build righteousness so that one cipher is complete. None of that is incorrect, okay? Again, you guys are mixing in the alphabet. When you build in today's mathematics, don't do that, because the one thing for sure, though, is that I don't think you brothers and sisters are seasoned enough to do that. You know what I mean? And you said, and deals with justice at its base, giving one the foundation for life and civilization to develop the highest level. Okay. Space. All right, let's see. We would think so, right? Infinite mind, that supreme being, we would age supremely. You know what I mean? Hmm. Oh, every month. Okay, true self, every month. That's not bad. Once a month. That's really great. That's really great. A 3-day fast once every month. That's going to keep you clean, though. It's going to keep perspective, and make you appreciate the quality of the foods you eat. You know what I mean? And if you have a treat or whatnot, though, you'd earned it too. When you're fasted, it's difficult to sleep for me. Okay. So with that 7-9-30 means that you have a lot of extra chi, a lot of extra energy that when you're fasting. You know what I'm saying? Which means that probably you're fasting for a good reason, because you've been sluggish, right? So when you see like the energy increase heavily when you fast, it's because you probably needed to fast, definitely, right? So what I would say is this: to help offset that is like the logic. What I would do, me personally, is if I was getting a lot of energy and I couldn't sleep when I was fasting, and because you don't want to fast and do something healthy for yourself, and then you're not sleeping. So like, what's the point of a fast if you're like sleeping 4 hours or something like that, 5 hours, and or a, 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 a bad 6. You know, we should all be trying to get 7 to 8 and stuff like that, right? So what I would do is that maybe you experiment with training heavy on that day, right? Start out in the morning and see, train very heavily, and also plan a day of heavy activity. Not just heavy physical activity, but heavy brain activity, right? Do a lot of stuff. Read a lot. Try writing. Try writing a lot. Do something that challenges your mind heavily. Okay, if you exhaust the mind and body, you'll definitely earn that sleep. Okay. All right. Infinite Mind said, "How to Eat to Live" should be taken literal, too, not just what to eat to live. Right. The title is "How" for a reason. The older I get, the pickier I get with my eating habits, not just that. Yeah, absolutely, God. Like every meal that you have, you should try to make it like an event. You know what I'm saying? Um, don't just eat. Don't try to always be working on getting out of the habit of eating on the run. A lot of times, if the only way to eat is on the run, no, I'll skip that meal. I really will skip it. You know what I'm saying? And that's definitely something you should always be planning the quality of your meals. So if you have a meal, eat nice and slow, relaxed. You try to relax your cipher as much as you can, though. Um, be involved with it. When we talked about mindfulness, though, that's eating your meals is where you want to practice mindfulness, where you feel everything. And you want to practice. How does it feel when you go in there? Okay? 793rd, I have a really high metabolism, so when fasted, lose weight that it took a while to put back on since eat. And have been eating one meal a day plus training during the fast. Training during the fast. Okay. All right. Well, if you want to build further, we could build. Maybe email me and stuff like that. We could build further about what you could do though to, if you want to bulk up and things like that. Learn more about it. You know what I'm saying? Um, and we could add on with that too. But certainly something to deal with. You know? But it's probably If you have a high metabolism, though, fasting seems almost like a moot point sometimes, and you have lots of energy. You know what I mean? I didn't say it was useless, but it feels that way. Okay, that's the thing about eating, though. How you feel, though, is very important. Okay? All right, where are we at now? Yeah, Infinite Mind. Yeah, liquid chlorophyll helps us detox, so good alkaline water with chlorophyll. Yeah, Infinite Mind. I've always been partial to the chlorophyll powders. And one of the classes before I talked about, when we talked about the living foods protocol plus lesson I made, I always have to plug in my favorite one that I'm using at the moment, that I've been using for a few years now. Amazing Grass, no, he denatured his a long time ago. Started putting so much maltodextrin in it and everything, and he ruined it. It didn't have that earthy green look. It had like a lime green look. But Amazing Grass has been my joint for years. You know what I mean? Yeah, he definitely did though. Yeah, his products is not really strong like that. But Amazing Grass is great. They got a lot of flavors and it doesn't taste like dirt. Like you just got played football, got tackled in your face, went in the ground. You know what I mean? But I know Don said, indeed is. I think that real quick. That's peace. That's peace. 793, you'll get it there. The body is something that you're always experimenting with and always studying. You know, it's always going to fluctuate. It never will stay as stable as you think. Okay, let's see what we have here. All right, just some reminders and stuff. As I always remind everyone, definitely go to definitely go to five. You know what? If you look at, I use Amazing Grass, and what they do is that they blend them together. So you're gonna have the red fruits. You know what I mean? Get it out. Yeah, yeah. Amazing Grass products. They kind of combine the fruits and the vegetables together. That's why they taste so good too. So that their chlorophyll powders are merged together, fruit and vegetables. So it's got them both together. So that's why. Yeah, so they'll have like their berry flavor. They even have a chocolate flavor. Watermelon for energy, lemon lime, tangerine. You know what I mean? Pineapple lemongrass. I haven't tried that pineapple lemongrass one. That sounds real good. But yeah, you know, purple chlorophyll. I think any chlorophyll is good. So purple chlorophyll is going to come from like purple vegetables and stuff. So all of it is good. All of it is good. Right? Absolutely all of it. Yeah, this is what I was going to say. Definitely go to the 5%media.com page for the Peace Course column. I put this video up. I've been usually doing it every Saturday, right? Before I get into all my writing, I write that column quickly, my reactions, some of the things, and I really try to focus on the pedagogy. So if you got this knowledge and you have 120 and you're building like Infinite Mind, some of the things I write in that column is really more for brothers like you. You know what I'm saying? Although everyone can use to understand it, but it's really more for brothers that have been teaching, that have been out there building, that are out there actually, making civilization classes and stuff, and just sharing, ideas and perspectives of how we could look at it as that. You know what I mean? And then just being a place where if you don't know about what we're doing or you missed the courses and you don't want to fiddle through my page, because eventually when we're not in this quarantine mode, I'll be doing, my YouTube channel will have a lot of other stuff on it as well, including, more of my hip hop shows and and, uh, and videos from my hip hop shows and things like that. And I have a lot of old hip hop interviews I'll be putting. So if it gets cluttered, when it gets cluttered with other stuff, instead of looking for just a Peace Course through my channel, you can always go to the 5%media.com, and the Peace Course has its own section under culture, so you can see all those articles and stuff, and go back and do the videos embedded into the column. So you can always do that. But oh, that's P.E.A.C.E, definitely. That's P.E.A.C.E. Yeah, yeah. That's dope. That's dope. Brother's doing incredible stuff. I mean, incredible. There's articles about that. I don't really know. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the one to ask about that. You know what I'm saying? About the show and prove, that is. Um, as of this point, it's probably happening virtually, um, which is great if you really want that. For me, it's the most awkward shit ever. But no, I don't know. But if we have to keep trying and finding ways to Yeah, but you know, you had that question. You had a question here, and I love to relate everything to how I'm seeing things now, and what I'm trying to build on. And Saladin had a question, very good question, um, about. He said, "How can a neophyte?" I refuse to call you guys neophytes. Uh, sounds weird. Sounds like some kind of affliction. How can a newborn in the culture keep from, um, you said, over-idolizing or worshiping the father, right? Um, uh, First off, the truth is, Saladin, is that if you really study and you know and you build with brothers like myself that have learned from the elders that were around the father, if you find the elders that were with the father, you're going to revere him. You have to revere him. If you really study the supreme mathematics and what we've learned, then you're going to revere him because what he learned was so immense and what he understood was impeccable. If you have any appreciation for supreme mathematics and what it teaches, how we use it, how it manifests everything that we have in our mind as a creator, and how it becomes that ultimate tool, you know what I mean? And how it's a perfect teaching tool, the perfect pedagogical tool. Um, you have to consistently and constantly revere him and just, you know, literally, like, just as a thinker and as a builder and as a true living God, just be in awe at how amazing it was what he did. There's no getting around that. Just like it is for many great people. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, for one who has built with great people constantly throughout my life. You know what I mean? Um, Built with people that have made incredible things, made incredible works that we all revere as well. You know what I mean? Um, Artists that we all cherish, that we're amazed by, um, and seeing students that have done things that amaze me. You know what I mean? Like some of the brothers on here, right? Like Infinite Mind, Wise Ruler, just amaze me, right? And continue to amaze me. Um, we should always be reminded that why are we revering, you know what I mean? And why do we have those respect? And how do we use that to inspire us so properly? You know what I'm saying? We have all things we revere, like you know, um, we have symbols that inspire us though, people and what they've done. You know what I mean? Look, my twin brother, he had bought me this thing for when I train, and I train here in this room, or I do my weight training in this room, and I do my martial arts outside, and my HIIT training. But I do my weight training in this room, and he got me this Kobe plaque. You know what I mean? And so I look at that and I'm inspired. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So inspired by certain things that they give us a visual. You know what I'm saying? Just like when I saw The Last Dance, it reminded me how much Michael Jordan inspired me. You know what I mean? It inspires. Because it's very rare we get to see such black excellence. No defilement, though. Everything was done at the highest level. And when they reached the highest level, at the very highest level, the most stressful, the most difficult thing to accomplish, though, they achieved it each and every time without fail. It's very, very, very rare to see such things like that. You know what I mean? And when we look at the Father, and if the Father's goal was at the highest level to teach all of the human family something that was the absolute truth in a way that they could always use the absolute truth to be themselves at all times, namely supreme mathematics and all the other teachings, but mainly supreme math, then it's even greater than what Michael Jordan did. And how can that not be revered? You know what I'm saying? When we get the knowledge of self, like I did, we had our own little pin, little button with the Father's silhouette on it. So much so that's an iconic silhouette of the Father, right? How do we not revere people that do great things, right? When we research Malcolm, right, and the things he did, we research Fidel, and we see the things that he did, and we see the nature by which he did it, and that, you know, do things that incredible, that important, right? But with this knowledge of self should also be that reminder, though, that the main teaching that the Father had, though, was that you are the same as he. You know what I mean? You're the same. Not almost, or a version of a lesser version, or quite a different version. But if you were any type of different version, you're a better version, right? And if you're out here and you're here building and you're just trying to learn because you're always curious over all these years and you old as hell and you're not the better version, then go teach someone that is. Just go teach someone that is. You know, so if you don't think you're the better version, the upgraded version of Allah the Father, then you old. You're old in the mind and you're old already and you're weak. But you can still learn this, though, and teach someone else, though, their supremacy. That's how we don't idolize. You know what I'm saying? That if we demand, though, ourselves to perform at that level, that if we look at Michael Jordan, if we look at these great legends, if we look at these people that have done great things, right? You know, then we can really build. Yeah, Raja. I always needed to. I always was nearsighted, though. You know, but the chat here is so small. It's so small that I just say, you know what? Let me just wear my glasses while I'm building, because I'm nearsighted, so I don't really need it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, now I'm culturized. You know? Thanks, Raja, for coming in and disrupting this whole build here. You know? Class is over. End stream. But yeah, you know. Now, when we say worship, though, right? Because I'm really talking about idolizing or taking idolizing too far. But when we talk about worship, we're talking about worship only comes, though, if you constantly acknowledge that you have no power. So when you worship something, it also means that they alone had the power and you have none of it. So already, though, once you do that, though, to me, you should immediately see that. You know what I mean? Right? So, you know what I mean? I'm only farsighted in when it comes to the knowledge degree. You know, writing my history in advance. But peace, God. Peace to the God, infinite mind. But let's see. Saladin, I don't know if that answers your question. If you had something specific, like, I don't know, the way you were thinking of it, or something that you were dealing with, you know what I'm saying, that put you in that situation, or like you constantly, maybe you find yourself in a certain mode of thought like that, you know what I mean? But the worshiping of things, you know how you know you're worshiping something? When it's not becoming a tool of inspiration, because there's no product of inspiration. Inspiration should have its own products. When all you're doing, though, is you're getting lost in the marveling of the inspiration, and now you're getting no insight, and there's no insight to you. You know what I'm saying? It's not provoking something. It's not provoking, you know, something to try, something to build. You know what I'm saying? Right? And take it a little simpler. If you see Jordan, if you learn about what he did, then you should be inspired to do something, the things that you do just as great, or to work to find something that you do great, right? And to try something new that you might fall in love with, that might be something great. Because to me, in this classroom, one of the things is to find out what are the things that we can do, right? What are the ways that we can build? What are the works, right? What are the works, right? What are the new things that we can try, right? When we study ancient civilizations, right, we find that many of the ancients of Nubia, right, many of the ancient original people, namely the most popular one, Imhotep, was a polymath. You know what I mean? And you only become by trying all these things, right? You could have the abilities of a polymath, but if you never tried any of these things, you would never know. Right? To be skilled at many things, you'd have to actually try many things, right? Look at the career and the works of Rabindranath Tagore, one of my favorites and inspirations. Right? Research all of his books and what he wrote, all in the free domain because it was a long time ago. Led the Bengali Renaissance, right? A contemporary of Gandhi. One of the great writers, wrote hundreds of compositions, songs, plays, novels, books of aphorisms, right? Sayings of understanding, written beautifully. That's what an aphorism is. Poetry, poetic prose, speeches that he gave, right? Those damn Indians, those original people. You know what I mean? Always messing things up with their technology and their yoga. Okay. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And mind you, I understand where you're coming from because I'm a person that reads a lot of biographies, and I look at my work. I spend a lot of time writing about the greatness of individuals, about the greatness of the artists, about the greatness of other musicians. You know what I mean? And always being in awe of people that create. I just got a text from Rashid Chappelle, and he sent me his latest work about to be released, and nothing short of incredible work. You know what I mean? So I'm constantly surrounded by things that inspire. So that puts the battery. That's like, what can I write? What can I create? How can I inspire? You know what I'm saying? Right? Just like when we trained in martial arts, though, we was watching these kung fu movies and saying, how can we do it like that? You know what I'm saying? And trying out all crazy ass moves, right? How do you, and also be a student of the inspiring. Be a student of the inspiring. So that way, you constantly see people that push the envelope. You know what I mean? Don't sit back and just revel with certain levels of creating. You know what I mean? They continue to create, continue to add on, right? Jasem, peace. I've been wondering about how to turn a spark into a sustaining fire. Nurturing that little ember in the nest seems beyond me at this point. I don't know per se how to do that, but I have a lot of books on that. Email me, Jasem. Many of the students here, email me. I have a couple of books and stuff like that. I myself don't know. Like I couldn't personally tell you how to do it as someone that has done it. You know what I mean? All right. Any more builds on the day's mathematics? All right. I see Raja. You here? How do you see the day's mathematics? Give me a little build here. All right? Whoever's here, give me some builds here. It's good. It's a little bit low today with the builds. I like to get a lot of builds here. You know what I mean? Also, too, the running homework. Let's talk about that real quick, too. Okay? I feel like I erased something here. Okay. All right. Okay, let's see. Something here. Well, you skipped all the way to the end. Okay, so you did. Okay. All right. Okay. That's what the mathematics is. What's the build on it? Give me a build on that. You know? Why is wisdom? Why is wisdom build to destroy born knowledge cipher? Right? Why does that build knowledge atoms? Right? Okay. That's what it borns though. Right? So you're building it backwards though. Right? So then let me keep real wording this. How, right? How does wisdom build relate or equate to bringing a thought to fruition? If that's what you're saying, I'm not sure. Because remember, God, when you build, it's wisdom build born knowledge, right? Ultimately born knowledge, right? And I'm just abbreviating it, right? So when you build, you can't build from the end point. You have to build from the starting point, okay? Or else the equation is backwards. What is wisdom build? You know what I mean? Wisdom is the experiences of knowledge. The experience is being built. Put Fly Phrase says, put the activation of knowledge in play to build up wisdom. Okay. Fair enough, Fly Phrase. But again, today's math is the 28th day. I'm just going. Let me rewind back to most simple. Today is the 28th of May. Okay, that means that mathematics is wisdom build. Destroy. Okay, all being born to knowledge add on a psychic. Right? That's simple. Okay. So when we build, what would that be? It would be because that's what it ultimately borns, Jarrell, right? 2, 8 is 10, ultimately 1, right? To the single digit. A great example of wisdom build would be my discussing something I'm studying. Okay, explain that. What would be the wisdom aspect? Jassim says the way of individual fitness is to start at the foundation and the elevation is circular. Okay, I see where you're going though. When you say elevation is circular, what do you mean? Okay. Okay, that's something to explain. So in HVAC, you have certain aspects of wisdom. There are things that you know and you are actually experiencing. Okay? And then you take what you build. In this case, though, see, the difficult term is build. You know? What do we mean by build? Okay? Fair enough, Jassim. Okay, but again, we are building backwards, though. Okay? We're building from the endpoint. We're deconstructing it backwards, which is very problematic, though. Okay? Becomes a problem like that. Fair enough. Build is to add on, to put it into action usefully. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay. Let me skip over Saladin really quick. Raja says, so we are now building with it, adding on with it, the it being the idea. Okay. And the idea, okay. Okay. Wisdom is the idea in action. Okay. The idea in action, and then we adding on to it adds knowledge to the cipher. Fair enough. Okay. Now you see the only problem with this project has nothing to do with the sense of it. It has to do with saying it with sense. So we have to be able to say this though where, and that's the practice, to be able to say a thought out concept like this and be able to explain it though in a way using the mathematics that would make sense. Because the point of the supreme mathematics is to make concepts like this sound easier, not more difficult. Okay? Saladin, you said peace. When banging out the mathematics, could you incorporate the spirit? You can. I'm telling you not to, so that way we make it simpler. Okay? I got a question. It gets using both. Listen, when you knowledge all of 120 and you live with this, you're going to be living with all of this, and you're supposed to use all of it. Okay? So they get used together because you live it. You're living these principles and ideas, and the alphabet just extends principles and concepts that are in the mathematics. Okay? But right now, just the students here that I have you all learning in the beginning, I want to hear builds just on the mathematics only. Okay? Just to keep it simple. That's why. Certain students can go a little beyond that, obviously, because they've had it longer. So that's okay. But right now, I just want to see the builds on the math. No matter how profound you get with everything, you should be able to build on the mathematics by itself at all times, because as a teacher of the youth, you always want to be able to take it to them as simple as possible. and as simple as possible is going to be the mathematics. Okay. I see that, Raja. Okay. If you want to put an idea into it to make it more concrete, yes, this is ultimately what we would be doing with life, right? Taking it out of the abstract, which a lot of these builds are abstract as in the beginning, and then taking it somewhere more concrete. I see what you're saying. So the wisdom, the actions of you fasting was the wisdom, right? And then the cipher, and then the building that is causing, right, is now provoking the adding knowledge to the cipher. This is good, Raja. If you could take this and actually write it down, it really would help you a lot to actually write this down as like a real thought and idea. You know what I'm saying? But now think about this. This is the other aspect to this exercise. He explains something that he's really actually doing mathematically. But then now that we explain something we're already doing mathematically, it wasn't the mathematics that got us to do that. We just explained something we were doing mathematically, so it proves that it's mathematical. But then how is articulating, putting into words something that we are doing truthfully and saying it mathematically in supreme mathematics, that is, how does that help us now? So now, Raja, the thing is, now that you expressed it in today's mathematics, how does that help? And that is not a question that can technically be answered now. Okay? Yeah. Maybe I am. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I am calling you fat. You know what I mean? But how can, now that you expressed it mathematically, how can your fat ass figure it out, right? Okay. Justin, I'm losing track of what you're saying here. Okay? That seemed random here. The path of destruction is by the sword. Okay? I want to throw just quickly, because martial arts and the necessity of it has been a theme for much of this class. I want to throw in some. Okay, I see, Justin. Yeah, I get that. Okay, we want to give things context, though, right? Wisdom is not wisdom if it doesn't have good context. Right? Now, if you want to get into the martial art, and you want to have a mentality, and you're training, but you don't have anyone to train with, but you still want to learn, what's more important is that you start developing the mentality of the way of the martial art, as opposed to trying to get books and that will show you how to actually fight. Okay, that is not always useful. You want to start with books like The Art of Peace. These are standards for me. So let's say if I was the person training that was beginning to train you, you couldn't train with me if you didn't read this book. Okay, and preferably have some insight on it. You know? Okay. Okay. Let me see the Dow. Okay, by Lao Tzu. Writing the Tao by Lao Tzu, but it is the translation that I like the best is by John C.H. Wu. Okay. Again, these particular books I can give you. Okay. But I'm writing them down here so you get an idea of what, how we're thinking here. You know, of course, the other books I give you, like the As a Man Thinketh, um, those are absolutely necessary. You know, but as we go along, though, these will be crucial as well. Books to look for. Okay. So he said, "My wisdom is shown and proven through my ways of righteousness, by training myself to continue building awareness of my reality, and destroying negative thought from my radius." That's how you see wisdom built. Very strong, Sirius. Very strong. Very strong. Yeah. Trying. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay. If you're really training in a particular martial art, if it's Chinese kung fu, definitely this book is going to be a great add-on. This book is not the Jeet Kune Do, so it's not showing you positions, movements, ideas. Um, like the Jeet Kune Do book is really for the advanced martial artists to get jewels out of. Um, the Tao of Kung Fu is really about the mentality, and it also surprised you how much of a martial genius, as far as thought and philosophy, that Bruce Lee was. Because sometimes people in the Western mindset, we kind of disassociate the two. We don't see those two things going together. Down the line, any martial artist that builds me will have this book, even though it is not something that you'll really understand in the beginning. You know, that's peace, Raja. Okay, so I think he said the prophets held the wisdom of God at the center. The aim is to usher in the way of thinking. Okay. This was the build that you had yesterday. That is more maybe a statement, but remember, this is a statement that would need scholarly proofs. Okay, and then also here's the abstract. When you said held the wisdom of God at their center, okay, just for now, I don't know what you mean by center. It leaves me to assume and not really know what you really meant. Okay, but yeah, thinking mathematically, building mathematically, getting well, yeah, Raja, I did add that. You know, right? The lone low life with the home sewn garment, right? Right. Absolutely, 793rd. That's why I wrote them there. These are all books that I have digitally, and I don't know if well, the Tao of Kung Fu I do have. I don't know if I have a nice copy of it. And by me nice though is that I am not really into. I don't like PDFs. Take too much space, and they're not agile enough. You can't manipulate them as well. So and they're very painstaking to put notes in and stuff. So it's the weakest form of book. a digital book. Okay. Now, let me just see. Yeah, I do have it. I have the Tao Kung Fu from Bruce Lee, but it's a PDF. You know, but still very useful. It's a quality PDF actually. You know? It's a quality, very high quality PDF, so it is definitely good. Okay. Absolutely, 783. You know, because I love that book, right? That's why I'm saying that these are the books that I go to. You have to have an understanding of these books in some fashion um, to build with me on that martial level. You know? I'm not saying that I'm at the highest levels of anything, or even at the lowest levels of a higher level. You know what I mean? But the martial arts that I practice, though, much of the mentality is from those books, and those mentalities are reflected in the knowledge itself. Okay? They're not foreign to the knowledge itself, they're reflected in the knowledge itself. So they are very much akin. You know? Okay, let's see what we have here. You know what I'm going to do for the rest of the hour, though, is a crucial foundation is my plus lesson on the supreme mathematics. Okay? Let me see if I have. And I just want to go through it so that way we have an idea. Okay? The science of breath. The science of breath. Is that a real book from Bruce Lee? That doesn't sound like something he would write, though. He certainly wouldn't write the guide to. Okay, that's written by somebody else. Yeah. Well, you know, the title is very manipulative, though, because that's not what he was about. You know what I mean? I think that's a misnomer, you know? You gotta understand, though, that the times that he lived, if he was out there teaching, though, he was going to be challenged, though, because he was training here in America, and America's filled with assholes. But yeah, if you got it, read it. Lowry, what do you mean by that? What days and times are you on? I don't know what that means. What do you mean by that? What days and times are you on? I'd love to answer that. I don't know. Right now, I was talking about Bruce Lee, though. You know what I mean? And the the days and times that he was alive. You know what I'm saying? You know, he was constantly, you know, challenged in that way. Right? Oh, you talking? Are you talking about my training? Like what days of the week and what times and stuff? Are you talking about that? Yeah. I'm sorry. My apologies, though. You give me a complete sentence so I can answer. You know, sometimes I lose the flow here. Absolutely, 792. Yeah, Itman was always challenged too. You know? I have an Itman autobiography that was written by his son and stuff. It was a short little book. It's very interesting. You know, very interesting. Itman was an incredible man. Um, I would say that in the lineage that I'm in, though, with the gods, we have a distinct, uh, you know, we have an indirect, to say the least, we have a line to Itman. You know, our lineage. But days and times for the class. My class is every Thursday from 7 to 10. Okay? 7 to 10. Okay? So I will be here another hour. Okay? 7 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. Okay? And if you, Bowery, I've been doing this online exclusively for the last couple of weeks. So there's a lot of classes so far put up that you can go back and you can go check. That's right, 7, 9, 30. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I've seen the Ibn films. I've seen all 4, and I love them all. I even saw Master Z. I loved it too. They're all great movies. Okay, I'm trying to. This is also a good book, but not necessarily, immediately required, because I think that you have to be a martial arts a little bit longer to derive insight from that. Because a lot of people get the mentality from that, and I don't think that um, they're always ready for that from the beginning. Okay. All right. So let me go through this build on Supreme Math. Okay. I think. Let's see. It's a lot of stuff here. Certainly one of my most lengthiest plus lessons, but it is the Supreme Mathematics. Okay. Yeah, and all those books, Science of Breath, everyone I mentioned, Book of Five Rings, I can give you all these books, okay? Most of them really great quality, right? And almost all of them not on EPUB, right? Which is really the best format for book. Well, it depends where you. If you're dealing with Filipino martial arts, though, it's really. First of all, you got to survey the land that you're in, though, to see who's around first, right? Right? You definitely want to do that. That's why in the martial arts, though, I just want you to get an idea of the martial arts, the nature of it. That's why, like, you're not going to learn tactics and things like that. You want to learn the nature of the martial arts first. Okay? I think if someone learns the nature of what it means with the Tao and what it means with the Yang and Yin and how they saw it and how they saw Wu Wei and Wu Ji, and what they mean by Kung Fu, hard work, what makes Chinese Kung Fu complete with not just the physical and the mental, but also the inner and the outer, all these things, you know what I mean? And talking about the biggest one I've always taught about as far as esoteric texts has always been sacredtext.org. Um, they'll have the Tao and they'll have a lot of those books up there, but they'll be older translations, so they won't be as good, okay? They won't be as good, you know? But when you're reading translated ancient text, like the Tao and the Art of War, right? I did put the Art of War there. I don't know if I messed that up. So. Let me write that. Yeah, the Art of War, translated by Thomas Cleary has always been my favorite translation. But when you have a chance, though, you know, when you get into the Tao and you get into the Art of War and these other books, you always want to read as many translations as you can, because we don't know that text. So it helps if you don't know the original translations to really study those texts, you know. Right? They do become different 793rd, because it's really the quality of the translator, what they understood, you know. Early translations um, by Lionel Giles and Max Mueller, these scholars didn't really have very much understanding of the actual arts of, you know, they didn't really understand Taoism like that. So, martial arts, and you know, they just didn't have the study like that. So, you know, you could see the detriment in the translations. It helps when you read those translations and you read somebody that had much more study and much more real rigor with it, like Thomas Cleary, who also has the advantage of reading their translations earlier. Right? What you want to do when you read translated works and you compare them is you want to make sure, because you can detect this if you really read enough translations, is the presence of a westernization of the ideas. You know what I mean? So if you see like if people want to make a version of, so that's why like books like the Tao of, I don't know, like the Tao of P.E.A.C.E. or things like that, be careful of reading those texts first, because they'll have their insights to it, and a lot of times they're wrong. They're filled with westernization things. Just because people bring you a positive understanding of a text doesn't mean that they have the actual understanding that was in the text. You know? That book doesn't sound familiar. Unfettered Mind. Unfettered Mind. The first thing I think of, though, when I see a text that I don't know about, though, is to look it up and then also see where that, you know, where it's from and who wrote it and stuff. Okay? But I would definitely like to read that. You know, definitely would like to read that. Again, you got to be careful when you read Buddhist text. Okay? The reason I'm saying that, though, is a lot of Zen Buddhist texts, though, have a lot of language that we don't use. You know what I'm saying? When they say non-doing and things like that, those are translations. Those are not necessarily what they mean. Because obviously non-doing in the Western context is laziness, like not doing anything. Okay? And there's countless points where that reoccurs. Right? Also remember this, right? It's a little side. Since everything is Borning Knowledge Cipher, the Knowledge Cipher degree in the 1 to 10 has an important understanding that I've always brought out, and it's definitely suitable for what we're talking about now, is the said birth record of other nations other than Islam, and they mention Buddhism and Christianity. Okay. Well, yeah, Jarrell, then won't be easy reads, because you probably need to read easier text first and reach up to that. And it's really not your inability to understand. It's the idea of understanding the language that they're using. You know what I mean? Like, for example, that's a great example. The idea of no mind. You know what I mean? When they say no mind, when you're fighting, when you're doing this, it means you don't let things get in the way. Like, you just let things be. But it's a hard concept to explain. You know what I'm saying? It's a hard concept to explain. And its translation isn't always suitable for explaining it to the Western mindset. Right? But when we talk about the Knowledge Cipher degree, Buddhism and Christianity are named. And this is important to remember, that my understanding, I'm sharing with you my understanding, right, is that there are two types of religion. Religions of the outer envy. Okay? When we look outside, you're right. You're always in the process of working to just be, right? But in this case, it's really about the not overthinking part that becomes the main point of that. Okay, so it says no mind. Don't have a perception of things. Mm-hmm. Leave your perceptions out of things. Mm-hmm. But okay. So when we talk about the two types of religions, they usually could be bracketed up into religions of the outer and the inner. Right? The ones that are most detrimental that we know about are the religions of the outer, right? So at a certain limit, though, there is a limit. Really, the mysterious glass ceiling of the mystery God. So when you reach a point where you cannot do certain things, right, then it's out there in the cosmos. Some being or force of energy is going to complete this, right? The universe will answer to whatever you think, right? It should be a religion of the outer, and it doesn't matter if it's organized or not. It just has to be organized in your mind as a thought. So people say, I don't deal with organized religion, but you're saying things like the universe will answer this and that. That means that sounds like a pretty well organized concept in your mind. So you still are religious. Okay? Religion is an organized thought of mystery that completes one or all processes, right, of your daily life. Right? So that's an organized thought in your head. Right? Right? So when we talk about religions of the inner, understand that a lot of the Eastern philosophies and religions, right? Hinduism, which leads to Buddhism, which leads to Zen, which leads to Chinese Chan, which leads to Japanese Zen. All of these religions are religions of the inner, where there's deep, deep meditation and a focus inside the mind to reach a place. And all of these works, all of these religions are based on meditation and a mastery of mind, but they also lead to the mind becoming lost inside of itself. You know what I mean? Lost in the meditation, lost in the exuberance of certain activities of the mind. You know what I'm saying? So, like, for example, I'll give you an example. If you ever meditate, if you ever do exercises for breath in a lotus position, that actually could rush up a lot of chi to your head, because that's what the lotus position is for. The legs crossed, right, and locked. It's the lotus position. And once that happens, that chi energy goes straight up because it's not in the legs. It's not going to the legs. So the chi is more controllable. But that doesn't mean that you can control it. So it can reach up into your head. It can give you a head rush. It can do all types of things. It can make you feel certain things and think certain things, right? So the thing is that you want to be careful, right? When you read these texts, why these texts are always talking about the mind and letting go, right? You could get lost in the mind, okay? Just like you could get lost looking outside of your mind. Right? So that's why we want to have a balance. Okay? The Power of Nine by Eckhart Tolle. I haven't read through all of it, though, but that's a fine read if you read it. You know? I have no problem with that. These are all books that we can get understanding from. Okay? I haven't read the book, but if you're really curious and want to do the analysis to it, though, then, by all means. Mm-hmm. By all means. I have not read it, though. I think I have it, though. Not sure. You know? And if I read it, though, it'd probably be out of the curiosity to see what Eastern religion he jacked for the idea of the power of now. Right? Me personally, though, there are so many ancient texts of understanding that I really don't spend much time reading self-help literature or, any kind of like literature of that kind, though, by authors of today, unless there are of the Eastern, religions and spiritualities like like Thich Nhat Hanh and stuff, who's very useful. Mm-hmm. How does one remove peace, D Christian? Thank you for coming into the classroom, man, and all this stuff. Definitely, if you find it useful, go back to the beginning, look through the notes, look through the Peace Course column in 5% Media, and see what's useful to you. You asked, how does one remove these religious concepts that have been deeply embedded in the mind and subconscious? I know that God is the original man, how to articulate such understanding. This is a day-to-day process, though. That's why I say, like, the first three things I tell my student, the third that I meet, the third thing is to bathe yourself with belief. Belief is something that accumulates like dirt, okay? And we always have to be remembering that when you're learning things to dispel what you don't know. And usually the things that you want to learn first are the things that you are doing right, are on. The things that you want to learn most are about what you are doing right now that are based on belief. In other words, what are you doing right now that you know the least about but has to get done? You know? Like for most people, that is eating. They really don't know what's in the food they're eating and things like that. So the first thing is not to say, I'm going to eat this, I'm going to be this type of eater, going to be that. First thing to do is to actually see what you're eating. Like what is it composed of, right? So these are things that to do with that, right? Um, the other thing is what you also, what you also want to do, right, is constantly take note of how you react to situations. Okay, and that's why it's also good to have a journal of your daily experiences. How are you reacting? You know what I'm saying? Um, are you expecting people? Like I quoted the sixth degree in the 136. He likes the devil because the devil gives him nothing. Are there things that you are expected of? See, this is forms of mystery. So what you're going to do is see what forms of mystery, what expectations do you have? These are things to take note of. Okay? This is how you take away the religiosity and the things that you're dealing with. Right? All right. Any good reads on topics still not 020 say in my immediate cipher. D. Christian, email me, okay? So that way we can build and I can get you books in particular. I can send you the books I've been talking about, but I can also send you some things in particular. Give me your story, give me your process here and stuff like that. Okay? You read that one. Oprah's Book Club, yeah. There's nothing wrong with a lot of these books. It's just that they're diluted versions. You'd be surprised that a lot of these concepts of that you'll see in books like that are usually already in the ancient Asian philosophy books. The Western world has been copying the philosophies of the Eastern texts since they decided to translate them. Right? 793rd. I'm assuming that you're here in New York, right? And if it's about to rain, though, that means that you better either learn how to train on side or get used to closing up with books, or do both. Right? Now, just okay. I'm debating whether I should go through this whole mathematics plus lesson. It will take me too long. We only have a half hour here, and I don't want to break it. I don't want to break it down. So the next class, I'm going to go through it in detail. Okay, because this plus lesson is going to take a lot of elaboration. It's 5 pages long, but it's pretty heavy. Okay, and I also have a distinct long build on power, and also dealing with why I don't use refinement anymore. But I don't want to just glide by that. Whatever I do or don't use, I want you to know why, and also allow you to make your decisions with which, especially if you have a different enlightenment. Okay, it's truth, God. Yeah, so there's no way around the series, though, right? Like, the understanding comes from the original, man. They have to use that. There's no way around it. You know? There's no way around it. That's why I would rather have you read the original source. You know? Also, you want to read, if you reading the philosophies, you want to read the Analects of Confucius, right? If you want to read modern Buddhist philosophers that really write excellent books because he knows how to make it into subjects, you want to read the 2 main philosophers that I prize dearly is Jiddu Krishnamurti, right, and Thich Nhat Hanh. You know? And again, if you're interested, just let me know because I have a lot of books from them. I mean, a lot of books. Thich Nhat Hanh, I have at least over 30 files, right? So definitely at least 15 books, though, in different formats and stuff. And Jiddu Krishnamurti is a wealth of books. You know? That's over 72 books. So some of them are repeated here in different formats. So I'd say at least 57. So at least about 60 books at least. Right? So I have a lot of books on those. Eastern texts are translated as religious. The ideas are coined as religion. Religion being the belief in and worship of superhuman control of power, especially personal God. Absolutely, God, yeah. And that's something to take note of, It's like we end up having to really extract insights out of it, though, And the more that you read just translations, because I've read a lot of translations of certain texts that I love, so you tend to see how the Western framework of religion is applied. By the way, that's also what you're going to do when if you were really, really studying your ancient history, your ancient history of Nubia, your ancient history of Kemet, Egypt, right? You're going to find that a lot of the analysis, though, of the religions, the so-called religions, spiritualities, or the interpretations of hieroglyphics and such, are often done with a religious bent. And they're done with a religious bent of the Western world. So they assume certain things that may or may not be true. Yeah, thank you for that, Raja. Hinduism, Jainism, I see these as misinterpretations of a way of life, dharma versus religiosity, right? Whereas these ways of life became religions during colonialism. Right. And we have to also remember that even as we extract in the ancient texts the understanding and the usefulness, we have to know that the history of, like, for example, Taoism, Buddhism, definitely, which were designed to not be religion, right? Because that's why one of the prophets, right, Shakyamuni, was leaving Hinduism to found Buddhism, was to get rid of idol worship. And yet, Buddhism today is that little fat Buddha that you buy, figurines of and make altars of. And he wasn't fat. I mean, if you really study Buddhism, he was starving as hell, so he was skinny as a noodle. So they got the money Buddha, rub your head for luck Buddha, all that kind of stuff. And the Taoism becomes a thing where they have, Taoist stories of, superhuman powers and all that. So all of this stuff mutated, And that's why, going back to the original ancient text, do they have are they translated with the perceptions of mutation that are from the later generations? right? So the Western mindset, they'll cover the history of, they'll translate a Taoism text in this year, but with the framework of what they learned about Taoism all these years included, which would include the bastardization of it. But they won't see a difference, so that's a problem too, They won't see that break, right? Yeah, so, yeah, 793rd, yeah. I mean, the truth is that Western and westernized research is always impaired because you have to categorize and you have to have an answer. You can't just find the pyramid. You have to be able to explain the pyramid. Like, you'll never find an ancient Egyptology text and they'll say, listen, we just banged into this thing. We don't have no idea what any of this means. They are usually making a meaning or an assumption for it. Serious, good point. My favorite Thich Nhat Hanh book is the Heart Sutra, because he explains the Heart Sutra which is a very difficult text, in a way that I've never seen before, and I kind of agree with that. And it's one of the books I read at least once every year. Of the 10 plus books I read every year at least once. I love his understanding of the Heart Sutra. It's very profound. Just seems that way sometimes, but sometimes it's our own people that make that break too. Remember, a lot of Eastern history is also striving to compete with the West and being like the West. So remember that all of the East, including not just us here in the belly of the beast and the poor part, right? The whole world has fallen victim emulating the West, and that has happened and played a lot of the ancient texts as well, so that happens too. Now, I want to help you with the homework assignment. I'm going to leave Supreme Mathematics for the next, okay? Because we're going to go through the builds on the mathematics every class until you guys really, until and after you guys really build it strong. And when you build it strong and I know the level that you're at, then I'm going to ask you to build on certain degrees and add on to that. But if you're on certain degrees and you don't build on the mathematics well, I don't want to hear builds about alphabet in it, or I don't want to see builds about anything else in it. We have to develop to that point, okay? Because it's literally like you punching wrong and then picking up butterfly knives and trying to strike with it, and you're just going to pound your head off. You're not going to do anything else with that, okay? You think you're killing the other man, though. You're chopping your ear off like old school Jet Li. Your Jet Li stuff. You know what I'm talking about. One of the running homework assignments, though, and I keep putting it here because I haven't seen the list, is making a list of criteria of what Allah, the true and living God, must have to be such, to be that's what He is, right? So I'm going to give you some general ones for you to go research and see if you can actually do. 793. So Lo Carlung, one of the masters, Lo Carlung, flick from back in the day, speaking of spookers and dogs. For some reason that sounds vaguely familiar, though. I may have seen that, but he was a real builder. I think you're talking about he's the one that became a father figure to Gordon Liu and Law Carl Leung, yeah, and he directed a lot of these movies. It was in them. A real genius. But yeah, that conversation sounds very familiar. Yeah, real nasty. What's the movie where he really? Yeah, another great movie where he was in where he directed it. So you see, he's directing genius, but he also was in it. Mad Monkey Kung Fu. You know, love that movie. But his brothers that were training, we used to always imitate that, movie. You know, Drunken Master 2, right? As an older man, yeah, and he was killing it there under the train, right? Master, real master. You know, but every single class is Thursday, 7 to 10. Okay, for the last 20 plus years, right? All right. So you could put notifications on my channel here, so you get the update of the actual link. Usually the day of Thursday, I make the link available, the stream link that is, so you could be ready with the link. But every Thursday from 7 to 10, okay, Eastern Standard Time. Okay, but making this list of criteria, right? Of what I want you to do is like, how can you prove the true and living God through sciences, right? Which in other words, in your criteria, you're going, which sciences can you and can you not, right? Because we're students, right? Not prove, and I meant all of us, right? Prove, which is also sin, right? And you list them, right? Right? What is the language? What would it have to be the language of God? What would it have to be? Right? If you say it's supreme math or you say it's mathematics, right? Say it's supreme math or mathematics, then why? Right? This is how you go through a criteria, right? If you see people saying what it is, right? Answers prayers, right? This is what people say, right? Why is that not in the criteria? So some of this criteria is criteria that other people say, dispel it, right? Because this is when you would have to dispel for it to be so, right? Right? Walks through walls, right? Once you do exercises like this, right? Why doesn't he? I'm saying, so you have to do these things. Why is he in outer space? Okay? Why isn't he just an energy in all of us? Right? I don't know. Think all spark in Transformers. Because people try to get spiritual and they just explain the Transformers movie. The Matrix. Like you get enlightened though, and the Matrix falls out and you put it in your stomach. Hopefully you could meet Optimus Prime though as he returns to the essence. Right? And you get that, get that Matrix for you. But when people build on their spirituality, this is what they sound like. So work on this though. If you want to be more empowered to how you build on this, you got to make this criteria, the criteria that other people throw, and the criteria that you feel is demanded of this. That you feel must be answered. Both of them have to be there. You know what I'm saying? So you make this list. This is a growing list. This is ever constant list. You know what I mean? This is the homework. Okay? And when I ask for this homework, you start throwing them. Look, I think this is my answer for this one. You know what I'm saying? And if it works, it works. And if not, then we'll continue to build. We have a dialogue. You know what I mean? And if you have something that you can't answer, you say, listen, I came up with this criteria that was thrown at me and I can't dispel it. Or I think this ought to be a criteria, but I can't prove it. Okay? This is what you need to do. Okay? This will also exercise in helping you develop questions. Okay? Notice this is really more about helping you develop the question. Because if you can't answer it, then you need to be able to develop a good question. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with here. Okay? Now, Is there anything else? You know, I still have plus lessons. There's a lot more plus lessons. Next week, like I said, I'm going to go through the entire Supreme Mathematics build. Okay? We're going to do that. And that's going to take, it's going to take a nice little while. We're going to go through our build on the alphabet, on the day's mathematics first. And then I'm going to go through that build. Okay? Also, too, if you can offer it privately or online and stuff, I want to see updates on how we're adapting to the living foods protocol. If we're more, no matter what, if we have to go outside and do stuff, we are more quarantined than usual, right? Because of this pandemic. How are you adjusting? And I want to hear more updates about that and about your triangle of power, though. That's a consistent assignment as well, okay? What I mentioned in the beginning of the class, okay? And what I keep mentioning, okay? Where are you at in a consistent life, consistent culture? So, feeling it's peace. That's Blayling, right? Blayling Snotty. Right? Yeah, that's some interesting names. It's kind of dope. So fulfilling. So these are the regular assignments. And again, if you don't do it though, who suffers for it not being done? Okay, if you go through it and see that it's useful for you, and you don't do it, then you've already answered. Okay, you've already answered. All right. All right. D. Christian, I want you to go back to the earlier class, but this is a concept that you're about called the triangle of power. Okay? It's based on the Wing Chun idea of your power being into a triangle when your base is the body and you strike toward the center line. All right? But I also made the triangle of power of those three things that fulfill our power. Right? And that includes, in my particular way of life, though, it is reading, it is training, and it is writing. But in anyone's life, though, it'll be what they knowledge, right? In other words, what are they reading? What are they studying? What are they building, learning, right? So what you learn, right? How you train your physical body, right? And then how you share. In other words, how do you express yourself, okay? Because we're all creators. And if a creator does not express himself, and he is not creating, if he doesn't have a way, a nature by which he expresses himself, then he's not creating. Okay? Serious, this should be in your writing journal, though. But some of these assignments, you could bring parts of it to class, you know, the questions you have and all these things, you know. But of course, though, your most intimate details and stuff is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for what you want to share, okay? All right? That's what's important. All right? All right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. All right. Yeah. Shit, everything should be in your journal, right? Right. I have a lot of stuff. Especially as a newborn, all the things you're learning should be mind blowing. remember though that for you to know what the curriculum is and that I expect a journal, to have your own personal journal and stuff, a lot of these things are in the curriculum. So when you email me, I will give you that curriculum, okay? And again, though, if your reading is stagnant, don't quit necessarily on the books that you need to read. Just diversify them, you know what I mean? And break it down. So if you're reading a book that is very difficult but necessary to get through, then break it down to just a few pages. And then the time that you would spend reading, flip to another book. You know what I mean? Read a few pages of those and then flip to a different book. You know, vary the books and diversify them. Okay? That always helps me. Right? Let's see. We only have about 10 minutes left, though, so I just want to make sure that I get everything and leave a little bit of time so that way you can ask me any questions that you really would like me to answer before. Okay? Okay. Yeah. Raja, I just log off and chill. I'm already here. Right? Peace, Powerborn. Yeah, so we're at the end of the last couple of minutes. So anybody have any questions about anything? I'm really willing, to build. Also too, in that stage of progress of mathematics, though, and this is going to be something I expound on in the next class when we build with the mathematics, and I build on all the Supreme Mathematics and my Supreme Mathematics build. Build is a process that happens after God, okay? So when you get that far, is building really something of just learning and stuff, or is it something more profound? What has to actually change, right? So things to think about. The difference between Allah and Allat. Allat is just really a feminization, and it was used by the religions that at that time, though, they were stratified and they had many religions. Remember that the Prophet Muhammad came and people were worshiping, various gods, and Allah was one of them. They had feminized aspects, and Allah wasn't the only goddess that they were worshiping. They had taken the reality of Allah and broken it down into parts, and Allah was one of them. So. So it's literally a much different word. So definitely, it's definitely pre-Islam. Funny, right? Just to highlight that we are in quarantine. Yeah. Right, and I mean pre-Islam, really the religion. I'm really talking about the religion. Or to make it simpler, the language of Allah being one and all. Before that became, standard. The one and all. Before it was one and all, it was that. It was fragmented to the many pieces. Because remember, the concept of Allah, and even that word, is way older. So when they go pre-Islam, we're talking about the religion of Islam, and the use of Allah as that universal mystery. You know what I mean? Right? I think, as far as the English language, though, not history. History, when you research like other things, like we talk about a lot and stuff like that, you're not going to get that there. But as far as just like English language, though, the best is to have yourself an Oxford etymology dictionary. Okay. Problem with other etymology dictionaries, like the online etymology dictionary, is that they'll give you the roots of the sounds, but they won't give you the roots of the meanings of how that word came about. So they won't give you root meanings. The Oxford one actually gives you a lot of meanings. You know what I'm saying? And some of them can be very, very enlightening, very interesting. You know what I mean? Which was the whole point of etymology, right? To be interesting. See how these words got mutilated or what they originally meant. Often, not all the time. So do not assume this all the time. Often held clues to what they are trying to hide about words. But don't be those that build that the original etymology is exactly what it always means and it's always hiding something. That's not always the case. Okay, but many times it is. Many times it is. Yeah, when we talk about archaeology and stuff like that, it's a real pain in the ass, because they have so many denominations. Uh, I guess the best way, let me Wikipedia this, and I'll just explain it from the Wikipedia, because if I have a contrast, right? They describe it as a hypothetical prehistoric ethno-linguistic, right? So they say that just means a particular language from a particular sect, group of Eurasian who spoke Proto-Indo-European. So it's not really helping us, right? Proto-Indo, right? The ancestor. So the proto means prior, right? Ancestor of the Indo-European languages according to linguistic reconstruction. So they're basically just trying. When you go back farther and farther, you're not getting Europeans there. And books like African Origin of Europe, by see if I get the title right. I'm saying. Starting with book, but I forget. I feel like I'm writing saying it wrong. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know why I said African origin. I'm confusing T.O.P. I mean African presence in early Europe. But when you read African presence in early Europe, for example, you realize that obviously the European, the Western European, is not the first even of the West. So when they have terms like Proto-Indo, is because there were people in Europe before before the white man. Okay. The knowledge degree has a typo. I no, it's not really a typo. It's that some people don't have question number 10, and mine's didn't, and I built with Firstborn Prince and said it should. So then I realized that then I saw that it should. So it's not really a typo. It's just a missing thing. So I guess you could call that a typo. But a typo means something, not really a word that's missing. But does that have anything to do with the above question 10? Some people have. Does that have anything to do with the above question? And then that's it. And that's not distinct enough. So that would be, I think, what you're talking about. So it's not really a typo. That's a lot of some 120s didn't have 10 on it. You know what I mean? So you had to assume what above question, and that wasn't good because then we would go with anything that we thought. You know what I'm saying? So. Babies and women, two totally different things. Babies, teach them what they're inspired. Inspire them, though. Teach them something simple, and teach what they can learn at that moment, not what you feel like telling. Women, deal with women that actually are willing to be wrong. Okay, a woman that's willing to be wrong and really engaged is who you teach. Though everyone else, you chuck them. German Indologists came up with these concepts. Yeah, definitely, God, definitely. You know, again, obsessive categorization, and yet still not really insightful, which is the intriguing part about Western classifications. Yeah, Legendary Weapons of China. Yeah, I had mentioned that. 793. Yeah, definitely. A real favorite of mine. Real favorite. And I think if you're a fan, you could watch that on Netflix. I love all this stuff on Netflix and Amazon Prime and stuff because it has this crap copies. But yeah, Pop One, and you have the right one, but some people had wrong ones and they were incorrect on all of them. They were bad copies. So it should always have number 10. Should always have number 10. So unless there are any questions though, we're pretty much near the mark, right? Past the 10 o'clock hour. Right. That's what I mean, yeah. Does that have anything to do with the above question number 10? Right? And then number 10 was because the devil taught him how to eat the wrong food. Okay? Right? That's the 10th degree. But when we go above question number 10, no, what was the above question number 10? So a lot of people will build what is the said birthright of the nation other than Islam. You know what I mean? So now it makes some kind of sense, right? Because if he's going, the devil taught him how to eat the wrong food, born degree. And then he goes, does that have anything to do with the above question number 10? What is the question? Wait a minute. Eat the wrong food because he taught him what? Religions other than what? I self, Lord and Master. So that's why. Without the 10 there, you don't. This is if I remember correctly, this is really the only like direct reference from one set to another. You know? And I was always built that was the connection. Okay? So with that last answer, if anybody has anything to really build me, just email me. If you got my phone numbers, text me. And I'll build as best as I can. You know? But until next week, build strong, stay healthy, and as the theme of this class, though, get somewhere into your training to eventually get to some martial art of some kind. Okay. All right. So, Liza, you got something wrong. Okay. But, email me. We'll build on it. You know. But I'm gonna let go because it's so easy to click this end stream here. You know what I mean? It's harder to leave the classroom. I'm physically left in there because I don't want to do martial arts in the classroom to beat everybody up and leave. But with that said, email me, text me any questions and everything like that, and we will build. All right. So with that said, peace.